Welcome to this week's edition of Morning Line, the USTA's weekly news magazine. I'm Paul Ramlow.
And I'm Allison Conte. Last week's Little Brown Jug was one of the most exciting races in recent memory. Seemingly beaten in mid-stretch, Wiggle It Jiggle It and driver Montrell Teague fought back in the final strides to win last Thursday's Little Brown Jug for 3-year-old Pacers by a nose over Lost for Words in 149 3. The closing moments of the Jug capped an epic duel between the event's first heat winners, Lost for Words, who got a quick lead and inside position in the decisive second heat, and Wiggle It Jiggle It. They raced side by side for nearly 5/8 of a mile in the 1-mile race. Lost for Words appeared to be on his way to victory as the horses came off the final turn, opening up by more than 1 length on Wiggle It Jiggle It. But Wiggle It Jiggle It dug in and nipped Lost for Words at the wire by a nose.
Unbelievable. I thought it was a beat halfway down the lane.
What was that like for you watching that stretch run?
Like I said, oh, you got to go back and go neck of another heat. And all of a sudden you see him kick in, takes right back off. But it's just a great horse.
I thought at the top of the stretch I was going to win. What can you say about George's horse? He never gives up. He kept coming.
What does that mean to you to have people rally around you like that and to hear those people screaming for your horse down the stretch?
It means everything. I mean, a lot of people don't get the chance to have fans. This is amazing. This is harness racing Super Bowl right here, and we won it.
Last Thursday's stakes-filled card at Delaware featured a pair of trotting events in the Old Oaken Bucket for 3-year-old colts and the Miss Versatility for older mares. French Laundry cleaned up in the $126,000 Old Oaken Bucket, winning by 2 3/4 lengths over Andy Ray in a world and track record 153-4. French Laundry, sent off as the 4-5 favorite, is trained by Jimmy Tactor for owners Christina Tactor, John and Jim Fielding, Marvin Katz, and Al Libfeld. A son of Muscles Yankee out of the mare Creamy Mimi, French Laundry has won 4 of 14 races this year and earned more than $212,000.
The focus is on the Pacers, but you guys come out here and do really well with trotters on this track. It's a good track for trotters.
Yeah, this is a really fast half mile, and we've been setting some good records here. So with Pinkman last year too. So it's fun.
Backs of Life and driver Yannick Gingras made a 3-wide move on the final turn and charged past Classic Martine and Rockin' with Dewey in the stretch to win Thursday's $100,000 Miss Versatility Championship for older female trotters in a time of 154-2. Backs of Life, a 7-year-old mare by Winsong's Legacy out of Back's Machine, has won 3 of 23 races this year and 24 of 117 in her career. She has lifetime earnings of more than $550,000.
But around the 5/8, I knew if I could just have some racetrack or not have to go 4 wide around the field, that she'd give me a good kick, and I thought she would be right there. And thankfully, I was able to get out and run last turn.
Hoosier Park also hosted Grand Circuit action over this past weekend. Be a Magician made Hoosier Park history as she became the first mare ever to win the $210,000 Centaur Trotting Classic on Saturday. With David Miller in the bike, Be a Magician dominated a field of 9 male counterparts to win by a length in 153. Trained by Richard Nifty Norman, the 5-year-old Cadabra mare scored her 41st career win and 10th seasonal victory from 14 starts. With the win, Be a Magician pushed her career bankroll to over $3.6 million.
And the males are much bigger, much stronger, but you know what? She's a pretty amazing horse, and she's one of the few that's done it.
The anticipation for Wakizashi Hanover's trip to Hoosier Park on Saturday to take on local hero Freaky Feet Pete in the $110,250 Jenna's Beach Boy was at a fever pitch. Unfortunately, despite being valiant in defeat, Freaky Feet Pete hit the wire second, while Wakizashi Hanover took home the trophy, purse, and blanket by 2 1/4 lengths in 148-4. His share of the purse money boosted Wakizashi Hanover to millionaire status during his sophomore campaign. This week's tweet of the week comes from @GinaRocksYou, who pretty much summed up Little Brown Jug reactions everywhere. She tweeted, "OMG, Wiggle It Jiggle It comes back to win. Wow." That performance really spoke for itself, and I couldn't have said it any better.
The historic Red Mile in Lexington, Kentucky. Hear the echoes of champions past and the thunder of present superstars. Fantastic finishes, super sales, and the nightlife of a metropolitan area with all the amenities. The Grand Circuit at the Red Mile, September 30th through October 10th. harness racing's greatest tradition.
Roger Houston told me after the dust had settled on Jug Day that it was the greatest jug he ever saw. I personally think it was the greatest race I ever saw, but I know there are still those out there who will advocate for Lifesign's Little Brown Jug and Artificial's Meadowlands Pace against the beach. So this week I want to know, was this the greatest race you ever saw? Let me know where you think the 2015 Little Brown Jug ranks in harness racing history and why, and you could win some USTA swag.
Hollywood-Dayton Raceway has a pair of Grand Circuit races this Friday in the Dayton Pacing Derby for older pacers and the Dayton Trotting Derby for older trotters. In this week's edition of Paul's Paddock Picks, I'll take a look at the Dayton Pacing Derby. State Treasurer, the front runner for postseason honors in this class, heads a field of 9 top older pacers. The Ian Moore trainee has not raced since finishing 3rd in the Jim Ewart Memorial on September 12th at Scioto Downs. In that race, he lost by a half length to Doo-Wop Hanover, who was also in this week's Dayton Pacing Derby. Prior to the Ewart, State Treasurer had won 4 in a row, with victories in the U.S. Pacing Championship, Roll with Joe, and Canadian Pacing Derby. I think he'll get back on the winning track this Friday when he starts from post position 5 with David Miller in the bike. Ron Burke trainee All Bets Off has had an impressive 4-year-old season with more than $400,000 in earnings and victories in the Confederation Cup and Prix d'Été. He was 2nd in the Ewart in his most recent start and draws the 3-hole on Friday. Matt Kekele will drive. I think he'll benefit from a good trip and be right there at the wire. For show, I am going to go with another Canadian invader in Shambhala. The Rick Zeron trainee has 8 wins and more than $250,000 in earnings this year. He was 3rd in the Bobby Quillen Memorial last week at Harrington Raceway in his first start this year away from Mohawk. Zeron will drive from post 4. So once again in the Dayton Pacing Derby, I'm going with State Treasurer to win, All Bets Off to place, and Shambhala to show.
For all of you harness racing fans out there who have never had the opportunity to own a horse, I'd like to invite you to the Red Mile this weekend, where we'll help you find the quickest and easiest way from the grandstand to the winner's circle. Join us Saturday night for a night at the races, followed by Sunday morning brunch at Fasig-Tipton, where you'll learn the ins and outs of racehorse ownership, meet some key industry insiders, and have exclusive opportunities to get in the game. Go to shop.ustrotting.com to RSVP today, and be sure to email any questions to owners@ustrotting.com.
That'll do it for this week's edition of Morning Line. Thanks for joining us, and tune in next week for all your behind-the-scenes harness racing action,
including a look at the Kentucky Futurity, which I'll be covering live at the Red Mile,
and the International Trot at Yonkers Raceway. For an early look at the International Trot, visit internationaltrot.com. We'll see you next week on the Morning Line.